Good morning, fellow traders. It's Black Coffee Trader. Happy Monday to you. It is Monday morning, June the 9th, and we are ready to dive into the daily trade plan, kind of take a look at what this market's done since the open last night. And let's just dive right in. So looking at the NASDAQ, I've made a couple of adjustments to these levels and put this little green band in here from about the 21,750s down here to the low of day from Friday. And also the 21,725. Both of these are, let me just double check it. Yeah, the low of day from Friday and the 21,725 are pretty much sitting at the same spot. And so that sets up a unique situation on the NASDAQ. Also worth pointing out, the 754 area had some significant reactions several months ago if you look at the 4-hour chart. So that also really comes into play right here. On the 3rd, June 3rd, we had a high coming in right around that same exact level. We also had a low coming in back here on May the 28th. So you have a support turned to resistance, and we have now flipped that to support. We've bounced off that level pretty cleanly here this morning in the pre-market, in the early morning session. In fact, I almost took this long, and I was really looking at it on ES. I kind of wish I did, but I don't like trading this pre-market because the volume is usually so low. But anyway, big picture, what we're looking at today, I really think that this 725 area, the low of day from Friday, really is kind of the pivotal point on the NASDAQ. I am looking for longs off that level or off the 750s. And then again, if we get above the high of days from Friday and above this 860 level, 21,860 level, we'll be looking for longs. And there is a lot of upside, especially if we can break 22,000. There's a lot of upside. There's a 300 point range up here into the 300. So there's a lot of upside if we do get it. So we'll just be looking for that. If we fall below Friday's low, we'll definitely be looking for a break and retest short down into this next area around the 630s. And these levels down here below, I don't have a whole lot marked other than basically if we flip below the Friday's low, I'm really kind of short biased. If we stay above Friday's low, I'm pretty much long biased. But again, I will look at these if we hit, if we get pullbacks and we hit certain levels, then we trade what the market gives us at that point. I'm not making a big judgment when it really comes to anything really far out of the current range that we're sitting in. Also worth noting, as of this morning, 89.85% of retail traders are short the NASDAQ. So if 90% of traders are short the NASDAQ this morning, chances are I want to be looking to be long the NASDAQ. The retail traders as a whole typically are incorrect, which obviously we are one of those, but it is also worth taking that information into consideration. I'll share that with the other indexes as well. So yeah, definitely looking like we may be. You can't see that very well because I have a banner covering. I have a little chart down here that I've always got open where I'm watching a different index on the 5-minute chart. So I can have the NASDAQ open here. I can flip this down to CES, and I can see that ES is bouncing as well. And so, yeah, I really like having a couple of charts open, but that's the long and the short, no pun intended, on the NASDAQ futures this morning. 720, 750. That's the area that we'll really be watching for, see if we get reactions there and get a flip. Again, get a flip above Friday's low. I think that's a really pivotal point. If we fall below, then we look for some shorts. ES, a couple things to point out about ES. Levels pretty much the same, I think, as I had them on Friday, with the exception of this upper one, 6,004, 6,005. Big picture ES, if we fall below Friday's lows, we'll be looking to take shorts, really looking to wait to take a short until we fall below the 59.75s. Big flip of this area here, you have a lot of support, turn to resistance briefly, and that means if we would flip that back here below, that could really set a beautiful short trade down into the daily 20 and the daily 200. These are still sitting right around this 5,900. The other thing I wanted to point out the other morning, and I forgot, this market has been sluggish to break the highs and to push, and it really feels sluggish. And the thing that I thought about is maybe this is one of the things where some of these EMAs are waiting to catch up to price. Where you have kind of a time correction, where this is waiting to catch up to price to actually hold and push this market higher. We could be looking into the future and saying this becomes a pivotal level, which I really feel like it is. The 6,005 area is that big daily hold that we had from back here in October of 2024. I talked about that last week, I believe, and we kind of fell through that a little bit here, and then we've broken above that now. So also worth noting, on Friday, if you followed my recap from Friday, here's my Friday winning trade on ES. I took a long trade here, just a short little win, and then end of day, which falls into place right here. End of day, I took a long. I took 2 longs, and that's really what turned my day red on Friday. Here's the issue, and I want to point this out. I had moved this 6,004, 6,005 level. I had moved it up to match the high of day that we had on Thursday, which was right up here around the 6,010s. So if you look at the 6,010s, whoops, wrong screen, the 2-minute chart, the 6,010s are sitting right in there. And so that's what prompted me to take that long on Friday end of day. And the errant part there was I should not have moved. If I wanted to have a level around the 6,010s, that's fine. But I should not have moved this big level that comes into play on the daily chart. That was my mistake. And so for that reason, I had a really tight stop. Now, let me back up a little bit. The Friday trade end of day was not a wise trade. It was the right trade from a thesis perspective. We are, generally speaking, this thing was pulling back. We really pulled back down here to the 59.95s, which has also been a big level. But since that time, we have pushed long. Man, I'm really sad I didn't take this trade. I almost took this early this morning. I almost took this. And look at this thing bouncing really, really nicely off the 6,005s. Sorry about the squirrel moment there, but anyway, so the lesson to point out here is I can't make the mistake of moving these major levels. If I want to add one, fine, but if it's a major level that has a bearing on the longer chart, especially on the daily chart, we need to keep it there. And had I done that, look at that bounce. I potentially could have waited on Friday right at their end of day, which that ended up that was right at 4 o'clock. So not a good time to be trading, but anyway, you could have taken a little bounce there end of day along off that 6,004 level. So I stand by my bias. My thesis was correct on the long setup there. It was just the time of day and the placement during the day of that was just, it would have been way better to walk away and have a profitable day on Friday. Not that we had a big red day, but I thought that was worth noting. Okay, don't worry about FOMO. I have to keep telling myself that. We are just pushing right back out of that 6,005 level. So again, we might see some reactions there. I'll be looking for longs if we get pullbacks to that point here as the market opens this morning. The other thing to look for, I put an arrow here at the low of day from Friday. Definitely would be taking longs there. Probably would be looking to take a long here around the 59.95s as well, should we get that. So we'll keep our eyes a little bit open. Basically, these levels here, if we stay above the low of day from Friday, looking to take longs off of that. So that's the NASDAQ, or I mean, sorry, that's ES. Dow Jones. Actually, I forgot to share the ES numbers this morning. As of this morning, 78% of retail traders are short on ES. So again, that further, I really want to look for longs right now. I really do. Dow Jones, we are looking at basically longs off this flip we have at the 42,760s. Also looking for shorts below the Friday low. The thing to be cautious of is we'd be shorting into the daily 100 and the daily 20, sitting right here below price if it falls down below the Friday low. So that is a cautionary short. Might be better off to wait to take that short until we fall down here. In fact, I'm just going to mark that. Might be better off to take that short down here. We are shorting into a heavy supply area down here below, so that's something to be cautious of if we get a big tumble. But obviously looking for longs if we get a flip above this area right here, the 42.75s. I think that's big. Also, if we get a break, a pullback to Friday's low of day, push out of that, that would also be a good long to look for. Also looking, I'm not looking to long the high of day. If we get a break and retest above the high of day, I typically like to watch for that if we get breaks and retests above highs of days. But in this case, we'd be longing right into the daily 200. And I really don't want to do that. Now, here's the thing to point out. If we get above the daily 200, that would be an excellent long opportunity, because at that point, now you have the NASDAQ, you have the ES, and you have the Dow Jones all sitting above the big daily moving averages if that occurs. And that is very bullish on this market in general. Now, the interesting thing as of this morning on the Dow Jones Industrial Average, where's it at here? 85% of retail traders are long. So that may mean that we might be looking for some corrections and possibly looking for a short early pulling back. So again, that's not saying that these traders are all wrong. They may be perfectly right, and long may be the way to go. It really looks that way. But it's just an interesting statistic to take a look at, is what is the retail crowd doing as a whole. Moving to the Russell, I am going to talk about the Russell. I'm going to start to talk about it a little bit more. I'm still just trading it with evals, but I am probably going to start trading it with PAs this week, especially if we continue to get clear reads. Highs of days on Friday sitting right here around the 2136s, 2137s. Very clear level right here around the 2118s, and the Friday low around 2120. So if we get a pullback to that, obviously looking for longs. This one right here, the pullback, the overnight low is sitting right here at the 2131s. I think that would be an excellent pullback. Matter of fact, I should actually also add a long arrow there. That would be an absolute excellent long if we get a pullback to that area. Actually, let's move it over here so that I can see price. Right now we're rejecting kind of, or pulling back here a little bit. If we get a pullback into this high of day from Friday, that would definitely be an excellent long spot. And again, look at the high we had coming back here in May. End of May here, we had a nice, beautiful high right around this 2131. We had a touch point here as well around the 2131. And now we're pulled back to that spot right here. So this was resistance, and we have now temporarily turned that into support. So if we get pullbacks to that area, excellent longs off of that. That would be a very good trade on the Russell. And again, it's interesting how the Dow Jones and the Russell seem to be more in tune with each other, as do the NASDAQ and ES. So most of retail traders this morning are short the NASDAQ and ES. However, most of retail traders are long the Dow Jones and the Russell. 85% of retail traders are long the Dow Jones. On the same front, 75%, almost 76% of retail traders are long the Russell. And again, probably looking for a correction here. Let's look for a pullback and then get long to really ride this thing higher. But I think a lot of things, if you look at the big picture, a lot of things are looking very bullish today on the markets. You've got some nice pullback, potential pullback long opportunities on the Russell. Got the same thing going on the Dow Jones. And really have the same thing going on ES. Again, ES and NQ probably look a little bit more choppy at the moment, but we do have some key levels. If we pay attention to those, at least that's my game plan. Pay attention to these and look for long setups off of some of these. So what's this trade been doing had I taken it? So again, we had a pullback. Again, it's just, for me, trading this pre-market stuff, I'm not good at it. I'm just not good at it. So even though we have the levels, reactions, it feels like sometimes if you take those trades, it's almost more of a scalp where you're just looking to get in, get out, take some profit and walk away. So I am better off to just wait because of the way I trade. I'm better off to wait until we get to the New York session open and we get the big movement, the volume, and then we look for the reactions on these key levels. And that's the game plan for today. So, all right, I'll leave you with that. It's Monday. Let's be careful. It is, I think Mondays are sometimes easy to really dive in and get pretty aggressive. And then, you have a lot of kind of the weekend build up, so to speak, and the market maybe move a little bit erratically. So it's sometimes wise to be cautious on Monday. And so I'm speaking to myself as much as to you. News perspective, today we have nothing. Tomorrow we have nothing. On Wednesday, we do have several things on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So we're news heavy, red folder event heavy, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So today and tomorrow could be a little bit more of a slower, maybe more of a sideways choppy day until we get into that news. So that is something to be careful of. And what we do in the meantime is just look for these levels. And if we get reactions at those levels, we got to take our shots. Take our shots, manage our risk. Don't allow the trades to go against us in a big negative fashion. Keep our losses small and look for bigger wins. So that's the game plan. All right, we'll leave you with that. Thank you once again for following along. Appreciate you all. Have a good trading day. Let's start the week out on a positive note. I wish you all the best. Take care, and until next time, so long.